Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. What amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Britton.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are and so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. You know, your business, why are you doing it? You know, how is it going to change the world and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle, but I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me.
Focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, be steady.
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. Amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful so you do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. Well, there, I don't know about you, Doug, but that intro gets me fired up.
Dude, I'm blown away. That was awesome. And I saw all my friends in it too. So that was really
cool.
Cool.
Right? Yeah. I mean, so for those listening, welcome to the show. Doug is joining us. Doug Mitchell's an award-winning direct sales CEO for Argenta Field Solutions. He's built several seven-figure sales teams for clients like AT&T, ADT, and DirecTV, and now his own solar brand, Argenta Solar. But it's not just about business. Doug's got 3 children, a wonderful fiance, right? You just proposed.
Yeah.
Is that correct? So I have that right? God, I hope I have that right.
Yeah, you do. I'm going to call it a re-proposed.
Okay.
Because we were married for 10 years, separated, divorced, went through all that, and then reconciled. Wow. And so we just decided to get married again. So I re-proposed. And then we're going to have in June, we're going to have our I do redo barbecue is what we're calling it. We're not doing the formal wedding and everything. We're just going to have a big barbecue, have a big party.
Barbecue. That's very cool. That is very, very cool. Well, that alludes to the other things you do, rugby, and you're a barbecuer. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But yeah, back to our friends. You know, you and I are part of a wonderful group, really kind of what I would call the most prolific, impactful business networking mastermind group called Apex. And a lot of those were our Apex friends. And man, these are people just like crushing it, just really crushing it in their own way. So that's like the 3rd time we've shown that intro. I have to thank my friend Chris from Cast Ahead Productions, who produces this podcast. He put that together. He goes to great lengths to make this show great for everybody. So if you have questions, throw them in the box for us. We'll try to answer them as we go through. I know not everybody can catch this live on the social channels we put it out on, but yeah. And if you ask, if you got a question when the podcast airs, just hit me up, Jeff at thebigticketlife.com, and we can connect you. And in the show notes, you can connect to Doug as well. So yeah, Doug, welcome to the show, man. Really excited to have you. I said earlier when I shared the show out, I think we're going to have some really great heat and fire to throw out here.
Absolutely.
On this show. So, I've got a couple conversations going in my mind this morning with people that I'm talking to. And it really kind of, when you boil it down, it's about the abundance mindset, the scarcity mindset, the way in which the world constrains us on how we do things, right? Like there's a lot of people that are going to tell us, here's how you got to do something in life: buy a house, get your education, build your career, on and on and on. You did something that's very cool that I figured we'd just jump right in and kick off the show with. You bought your first business in a very unconventional way. Let's dig in. Let's start talking about that.
Yeah, so I think there's like two routes that entrepreneurs go. There's the let me just try stuff and see what works route, and that's been my career and my mentor's career that I bought Argenta from. And so we didn't do anything really in the traditional way. And so he hired me for marketing, and I ended up doing some other operations stuff as well as sales management, or more like a sales liaison, I should say, because there was a sales manager, but he recognized I had an ability to communicate with salespeople. And so he had this company, Argenta Field Solutions, which was the idea of one of his sales reps to get an AT&T contract and start selling AT&T services door to door, right? And this is a big business. I mean, there's dealers all over the nation that do this. It's pretty common. You've probably, everyone at some point has had somebody knock on their door trying to sell them AT&T services or cable or energy or solar now, right?
Right.
And so,
or meat. There's a lot of meat door knockers out there.
I haven't seen one in a while, but I live way out in the country now, so nobody knocks on my door unless it's still on my acreage.
Yeah, they figure you got your own meat in the front yard with a cow eating the grass, right?
Exactly. So, so he poured about 200 grand into this business, and he was doing everything kind of like the traditional way, instead of his normal instinct, which was just to try stuff out and see what worked. So, it's a sales company, right? And so it's very hard to hire W-2 for sales, especially commission only sales, where AT&T is not paying you until you make a sale, right? So how am I going to go out and hire a bunch of salespeople and we haven't made a sale yet, and I've got these payroll expenses and everything? So, he was doing W-2. He had a $20,000 contract that they were signing. He was giving them base pay and just over the top, position that he did for his other company, which made sense because that was an established company that had that revenue to do that. And so he sunk about 200 grand into it. It didn't work out. The guy that had the idea originally left, and he asked me to start managing it and see if I can get it back to black and get it back to the point where it was sellable, right? And so I remember the first month that it made like $6 grand net, right? Which compared to his other business, which, did millions every year, was nothing. But he was like, okay, now I can probably pitch this to one of my friends and they can buy it, Well, he tried to, and it turns out that if it didn't come with me, or if it, it was just a contract with AT&T, it's all it really was, And so,
so just a little pause on that. Yeah. So really, what it maybe this is an unfair assessment of what you just shared, but maybe what that person's friend circle or network saw was a whole lot of starting and not finishing from that person, right? I'm not trying to speak bad about them,
right?
But what they saw was that there's a team connection there that needs to happen, and that's an important thing to recognize in life, I think. Is that a fair assessment of what happened there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the people make the business, right?
Yeah.
And so if the business doesn't come with any people to run it, is it really a sellable business? And so and he wasn't, I guess, offering me with the business, or I wasn't willing to go with the business, you know what I mean? And so we were talking one day, and he looks over at me and he's like, why don't you buy it? And at that time I was making 35 grand a year as a marketing manager, and I had a 6-month-old daughter, and that was my first child, and so I had to think about it. And so, of course, being the integrator that I am, I went back to my computer and I started running the numbers, and I started doing the math, all right, how many sales till I can pay rent? How many sales till, I can pay myself, and I started running all those numbers. And then he was like, well, if you want to do this, you're gonna have to put $5,000 down on it, and I'll sell it to you for $200,000. I just want to get back what I put into it, right? I want to break even on it. And so I was all for it. I saw that I could make like 20 to 30 grand a month if I quadrupled the current numbers, which wasn't that hard because we only had like 5 sales guys at the time, you know? And so I started operating under that agreement, which was 90% for me to buy 90% of the company for 200,000, and he would retain 10%, you know? That way, if it was a big hit, he could still get something out of it, right?
Right.
And so, yeah, so 110 salespeople and $5 million annually later, he got something out of it, you know?
Right.
So
because he saw in you the ability to pull it through to a level of success that on his own wasn't able to make happen.
I think he was backed into a corner like, hey, you know, I can either keep Doug here doing this, which he's okay at, or I can give him an opportunity to kind of build his own business, and who knows, maybe he'll kill it. And he did. He came back to me like a year later, and he was like, I mean, I expected you to do well because you're a smart guy and you're an integrator. You're all about the numbers and everything, and you know you're good at that stuff. But I didn't expect this. You blew it out of the water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you know, I would attribute that to simply this: I replaced myself every chance I got. Every chance I got. The first thing I did was I knocked on doors, and then I started putting together a script and putting together levels of training for that script and writing a train the trainer, right? So then I trained someone else how to do it and then taught them how to train and so on and so forth, you know?
Yeah. I want to take a little off ramp here on that word script, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because really developing a script in a way is replacing yourself. You know, strong salespeople, super successful salespeople and businesses run on scripts.
Absolutely.
I tell my team this all the time. The way I relate it is, listen, if you want to replace the objectivity of your salary and commission pay structure not being there every other Thursday, that's fine. Bring your own subjectivity into the day and don't follow our plan.
Right.
Don't follow our process. Don't follow our script. But if you want to have me be a reliable employer for you, which is absolutely what I want. If you want me to help you achieve the things you want to do outside of these 4 walls we share together, that's what I want. But we've all come together on a process. We've all come together on a procedure and a script of how we go about things and how we do things. And really, in essence, following a scripted way of selling, procedures, operations, really in a way is replacing that nonsensical subjectivity that so many people bring to their job each and every day. I think that's the first way you can replace yourself in that theme of replacing yourself. So share your thoughts on scripts. I shared mine.
So not only can you replace yourself, but you can multiply yourself, right?
Yep.
And so the thing that's dangerous about scripts is the objectivity you talked about. It works both ways. It works for us too. And even though we may be super successful with our sales, because we're our first salesman, right? When you're an entrepreneur, you are the first salesman at your company, right? And what a lot of entrepreneurs fail to see is that you are unique, like a fingerprint. And your ability to pitch your product comes from a few things. 1, you're passionate about it, and 2, you're the most experienced person on it. And so when it comes to scripts, I always say less is more. So what I mean by that is, you know, obviously a script is broken up into 4 parts: intro, qualify, present, close, right? And what I mean by that is, you know, the intro, I might put 3 or 4 words, right? Who, what, and why, you know, and then the qualification, I might ask 3 questions, and that's the script. And then the presentation, I may make 3 points in that presentation, bullet points, and maybe I'll give them a few sentences to help, you know, basically form their thoughts. But at the end of the day, the script is just bullet points to keep you on track so you don't lose your way, right?
Yeah, I call them waypoints and guideposts.
Mm-hmm. So how does that work? White points and guideposts?
Waypoints. Sorry.
Okay, waypoints.
Yeah, like waypoints in a map, right? Like if you
Okay.
think about your Waze app, those little things that plunk down, like where the cop is, where the bathroom, yeah.
Right.
And a
Exactly.
guidepost. Yeah, so like just how we're guiding and weaving through our conversation.
Absolutely. And so if they follow that structure and they hit those questions and then they present those points, you know what I mean? Not only will it be a custom fitted script for that salesperson in the way that they sell, it'll also be a custom fitted presentation for the customer, right?
Yep.
And that's why we spend more time on the qualify than any other part of the script, because listening is selling, right? You hear that stuff all the time, but there's a huge functionality behind that. And if I get you to talk enough, you're going to give me two things: one, pain points that my product can solve, and two, dominant buying motives that I'm going to be able to close you with, basically. So once we get into the presentation, I am going to give you the presentation and everything, but throughout the presentation, I'm going to weave in those pain points and I'm going to solve them. And then I'm going to weave in, I'm going to make sure I'm hitting your dominant buying motive, and overall, if we want to get woo woo about it, like Chris Whitehead always says, my job is to show you how my product can improve your lifestyle. And lifestyle is overarching. What you do in business, what you do in your personal life, it doesn't matter. I want to improve your lifestyle. And so if I can do that at the end of the presentation, there typically isn't even a close. It's just about processing at that point. And whether or not you can afford it.
Yeah. I mean, I've said to my team and others that I talk with, coach, work with, I say, in 2022, if your process is not putting you and your team in a position of affirmation, you're really up against it. With the abundance of research material people have access to, the networks that they can reach out to. I mean, Facebook, Nextdoor, LinkedIn, it just goes on and on and on, where people can get input into what they want to buy, what they want to purchase, what they want to fix in their life. So if you're still kind of presenting this old school way of, like in my industry, in the retail mattress industry, if you're still like, if your process is still built upon what was done in 1995, which about 80% of what's out there is, that's a real problem. And that's what opened and exposed the jaw of our industry collectively in 2014, 15 with the online ship a mattress to your door thing.
Yeah.
I mean, our industry abdicated because of a terrible process. What we do to impact somebody's life for a third of their day, we just walked away from it. We as an industry did lip service to selling sleep for decades. And the industry at large deserves what they got, because their words didn't meet their actions.
Right.
And
that makes complete sense.
Yes.
And so, I what you were kind of talking about is those old school tactics, which is where the salesman talks the whole time and he's entertaining and he's outgoing. You know what I'm saying? So when people see someone like that in sales or just in general, they say, "Oh, you're a great salesman," right? And to me, that's the worst kind of salesman, that doesn't listen to the consumer and doesn't talk less. You know what I mean? When you talk as a salesperson, you should have something impactful to say. If you're not building rapport and you're going through your presentation, every sentence should be targeted towards that consumer's emotion, right? And so your job is basically because you listen to them and because you understand their lifestyle and you're now someone that they know, like, and trust because you've built rapport, your job is to get their emotions increasing and to get them to the height of impulse, right? So the second part of that is because of some of the things that Apex has taught us in building your machine, it's kind of crazy to see both sides of the spectrum, because you have, you build your machine and by the time the consumer gets to you, they're already sold, because all the work you've done, whether it be on social media, whether it be in advertising, whether it be in educational based resources, all that work you've done to build your machine. And then by the time they get to the salesperson, it's a laydown. It's a lot more of a laydown than it used to be. So now we're talking, okay, well, am I going to get them on the starter pack, the average package, or the premium package, And
Right.
so that's where the salesmanship comes in, is in the level of mattress, or the level of
Yeah.
consulting, or the level of AT&T package, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, to follow up on that, really what you just shared about building your machine, about doing all the work up front. You said earlier you spend the most time on the qualifying. I've got two things to add to that, and I'll get your feedback and input on it. One, a real world example. So it was Black Friday, I think, of 2016, maybe 2017. Gentleman comes in, plunks down $20,000 on an incredible Swedish sleep system. And it might have been a little older than that, because we haven't sold those systems for a few years now. But anyway, it was Black Friday, plunks down 20 grand, 20 minutes, it's done. And I did what no salesperson should ever do. Mind you, this is after the credit card receipt signed, but I still did it because I was just floored by it. I said, I got to ask, you were incredible to work with, but you were in and out of here so quick, dollars per minute. Yeah. You've spent the most per minute in my store than anybody ever has. What's that about? And he said to me, he said, fair question. He says, I'm actually happy you asked it, because it shows you really care.
Yeah.
He said, you've done all the work up front. You wrote educational stuff that I digested, your blog posts, your social media. I asked around about you guys in the local community. I've done my research on this brand. All you had to do when I walked into your store was not undo everything you did. Which is really yeah. Well, talking too much and really having integrity, right?
Yeah.
Words that he got elsewhere, matching actions in person.
Absolutely.
Right? And it was really that moment that kind of birthed that idea of, if we don't put ourselves into that position of affirmation for our customers, we're going to really struggle. And it really, the original thought was, wow, if we really blow this up to where we're just affirming things and not selling things, affirming we're the right fit.
Yep.
We're just going to grow. And that was a big turning point for us. So, you had your mentor in the AT&T company that you bought. This hit me when you said it. He recognized in you that you had an ability to communicate with your sales team and sales reps. So what's that ability look like? Share with people watching what that means.
More than anything, I go numbers first, right? And I go systems first. And so what that means basically is I'm not going to get emotional about the salesperson or the sales team as a whole, And so and there was more than just the sales numbers at that time. They liked me because I looked at their advertising sources and I said, hey, maybe not every lead that comes in is created equally. So when their conversion, yeah,
just an amen to that.
Yeah,
I mean, we could go 3 hours probably on that statement alone, but I'll let you finish.
Their conversion rates dropped, and of course, most of owners in that situation would get upset because their conversion rates dropping. But there was a difference from a full-page newspaper ad that we ran in Hawaii and a full-page newspaper ad that we ran in Minneapolis. And that was the level of income of the individual calling in from the phone, as well as the age, and in our industry, there's a sweet spot between 50 and 65 that our clients were at, so I was able to hone in the demographic and hone in the source of the lead and understand, okay, this is your conversion rate should not be this one overarching thing. It should be, the target should be based on the source of the ad, and that enabled them to focus on the source and the things that attributed to that conversion rate and increasing that conversion rate based on the source. And then I was their favorite person because they were closing more deals based on that, so we were just really diving into the data, and so I had a good relationship with them, not because, I'm this great guy and I'm likable, but because I helped them do their jobs better.
Right.
And that's kind of where the magic comes from, is looking at your salespeople as a business owner. You're supposed to serve them. You're there for them. And then that goes for your employees too. Your job is them. Their job is the clients and the product and everything else. But as the leader of your company, they are your client. And you have to do everything you can to make them successful.
Yeah.
And not just successful in business, but successful in life too. And I always thought it was just successful in business, and my job stopped there for a long time. And then I met everyone in Apex, and I've incorporated that successful in life as well into my business, and making sure that they have a path for that too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, that is very, very important. To follow up on that, making sure people are successful in life. I've got a fantastic delivery crew, Nick and Kelvin. Kelvin's a younger guy, under 30. He's got a cool little side hustle going on that he wants to make into a big business, where he does like travel photography for couples. Kind of like you said, I redo barbecue. You know, these are couples that aren't doing the big wedding, but they're doing a big trip. So he gets like, in January, he traveled to Hawaii with a couple to photograph the whole adventure and the marriage, or elopement, I guess is the better term. And, you know, when we brought him on, you know, the minute we brought him on was the minute I began the journey to keep him as long as I can, because he is so smart, so talented, and, you know, yet he's very good at what he does for us. So I want to keep him around, but I also don't want to hold him back. So it's a balance of things. You know, we recently did an infomercial shoot. We brought him in to do the photography for that, right? Because A, he would enjoy it. B, he's very good at it. So to me, it's like, if you as a leader aren't interested, and this goes right to the meat of growing your sales team, the title of our show. I mean, if you're not interested in the success of what your people do outside the four walls you share, or the environment you share in today's more virtual business world, that's a problem. So what are some things that you've done, or what are things that you take on in your day or week or month that follows that up to where you're seeing your people succeed outside of the 9-to-5 business aspect?
Well, there's a motivation behind it too, and I'll definitely get into the tactical stuff, but the motivation behind it to me is twofold, right? And, you know, obviously you want to retain them, but at the same time, if you don't, like if you're, what was his name again? Adam? Kelvin. If he goes on, and because of the things that he learned at your company, whether it be life skills, investment skills, financial, or just how to run a business, and just opens up this amazing business and kills it in the travel wedding industry, you know, or just video production in general, that's going to be a great recruitment tool for you, you know, and long term, you know. And I always like to tell my guys when they come in, you know, this may just be a stepping stone in your career, and we're completely okay with that. We want to contribute to you as a human being. And so some of the ways that we do that is we have what we call our freedom training. And so I derived it from Sean Whalen's free man speech. And it really impacted me because at the time, you know, I definitely wasn't a free man. You know, I had debts, I had obligations that I was just making up in my head that I had to do. You know, I wasn't in control of my calendar. I wasn't in control of my schedule. You know what I mean? I was doing $10 an hour tasks and $1,000 an hour tasks. You know, I was all over the place. And so when he talks about being a free man, it's being a free man in your faith. You get to practice whatever religion you want to. Being a free man in terms of financial, free of debt, besides a car and a house, you know, and free of freedom with your time. And that's probably the biggest one, right? Being able to say at any given time, you know, after this podcast, I can leave this office and go pick up my daughter and my boys from school and take them to lunch if I want to, you know. That really impacted me, and I wanted to make sure that I was creating an opportunity like that for my people as well. And don't get me wrong, it's easier to do in sales, right? And so at every level, we have on the solar side, we have an appointment setter level, right? And at that level, we're teaching them the basics, tax training, understanding how to open up an LLC, what investments you can get into for 2,500 to $5,000. You know what I'm saying? And we're constantly training on this stuff every week, right? And then at the next level, closers, we may look at real estate investing, cryptocurrency. I want to start an LLC called an Argenta Investments, and I want my people to be able to put their money in that LLC, and then make profits with me in different things, that we're doing. Whether it be like right now, Ryan Stewman put us on to a new coin that's coming in the marketplace, hasn't even been minted yet,
Yep.
And so
I got in on that.
Yeah, exactly. So I did too.
I was proud of myself. I figured it out without having to like phone a friend like I did on the first go around with the big co-op wallet thing we put together. But
so on our call on Friday, I made sure with him first that I could offer this to them. But on our call on Friday, we're gonna walk through that. I'm gonna show them on the video screen how to do that.
That's basically awesome.
And so then you go up in level, and we go all the way up to like happiness training and being present. When you're at home, and being present when you're at work. Which is one of the hardest things to do. It took me 15 years into my career before I actually achieved that. That ability to be truly present with your family, or truly present with the person in front of you, and not thinking about your phone or your notifications or work you got to do or the bills you got to pay, all that. So that's one of the ways that we execute on that. And what I'm realizing is happening is, because they're salespeople, they work on commission, right? We have a base pay, but it's enough to maybe keep the lights on and pay your rent. That's about it, right?
Right.
The rest
we do the same.
Yeah. So the rest has to come from sales. And if they're not having a good sales week or something like that, in the past they may have quit because of the inconsistency of it, right? But now they see the bigger picture. You know what I mean? And they understand that they have an opportunity structure that's going to allow them to make 6 figures and multiple 6 figures, and someday $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And so we display that to them at any given chance we can.
Yeah. I mean, one of the prouder moments of leading a team and having people look to me and my business partner for leadership is newer sales guy to the floor. He's coming up on a year. I guess it would be in May. But the end of last year is like, I have a whole new respect for tax structure and paying taxes, because I've never made this much money.
Yeah.
And,
absolutely.
To me, that was a great, I mean, as much as people like us loathe paying taxes, it was a proud moment for me to celebrate with him. And in that statement and in that acknowledgement that he's on his way to making more money than he ever has. To me, those things are great. Just as you were talking there about leading a team and all the things you do, and some of our friends are following the same path, investing in what we might say is pouring into our people. There's another side of this. If you're listening to this, watching it today or later, or listening later, just as an aside, Doug, our podcast audio comes out about a week after, so this time next week it'll be up on the player, but
nice.
Which is why I say it the way I just said it. If you want to get an idea of what the average person working for somebody feels, go to Reddit's anti-work subreddit. So reddit.com /r/anti-work. And I look in there often, and it's sad. And I do it because it gives me a perspective on how people feel about how they're treated. But it is sad. It's sad that there are people out there leading teams, managing people, guiding people who are so selfish. And on the flip side of that, it's sad that people who haven't bet on themselves, who haven't taken that leap. And listen, not everybody's cut from the entrepreneur cloth,
right,
and business owner cloth. I mean, if that were the case, you and I wouldn't be able to lead teams, right? But it's sad that they have no respect for, I shouldn't say that's a broad sweeping statement. It's sad that some don't see the level of commitment that folks like us take. And I don't blame them for that because they're blinded with the selfishness that it gives. So it is kind of this like ever evolving,
Yeah.
you know,
There's
ball of misunderstanding that happens. But you know, I bring that up because I think it's important for us to know what goes on in our people's minds and how we can help them overcome that.
Yeah,
I think that's very
absolutely.
important.
And I think you have to sympathize because you were there once too. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how old they are. You know, I've mentored people 15 years older than me. You know, that's not a prerequisite. So I think one, you have to have sympathy. You know what I mean? And that's huge. Just having sympathy alone is enough. You don't have to take action on it. You may not be able to afford to take action, right? They may have a situation going on at home. They need money, and you can't just hand out money. You got to operate a business. You got to profit, and you got to protect the company first, right? You know, our mission statement is we help each other achieve freedom, right? And our first core value is we put the mission first, which essentially means we have to put that mission statement first, the company first, you know? So we can't just hand out money because people have problems, right? So sympathizing with them, you know, and then giving you your advice and all that is great. But also, like you said, when they do approach you from a selfish standpoint or a very narrow view, you have to remind them. And one of the ways that I remind them is I pull out this picture I have of my daughter, and I've shared it on my social media and stuff before. But it's of me, and I'm on the couch at the apartment complex that we were living in at the time, and it's when I first started Argenta, and I was driving every other day. I was driving because I had two offices. There was a Corpus office and a Houston office, and I adopted them when I bought the company. And so every other day I was driving to the Houston office, and I was there by 8 a.m. from Portland, Texas. So it took about 3.5 hours to get there. So that means I left at 4:30 in the morning to get there by 8. And I always wanted to beat my sales manager there. So he could never be late and look at me with a straight face, right?
Right.
And so and then of course we'd run the meetings and everything, do the recruiting, you know, do the training, all that stuff. And then we go out to the field. We train guys in the field, and we'd wrap up about 7 o'clock typically. So 3.5 hour drive home, and I'm getting home by 10:30. So I'm having like, you know, these long days, and it was every other day. So it wasn't too bad, but it was still, those were rough days. Right.
Yeah.
And I would have like, you know, 15 to 20 of those in a month. And so there's this picture that Alicia took of me and Maddie when we were on the couch, and I literally woke her up from sleeping because I missed her so much, you know, and I just wanted to see her, and she's like 6 months old, and she's got her head on my chest and everything, and I'm looking down like this, and I got the baby face and everything, you know.
Yep.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there you go. Wow.
There it is. That's the one, man. That gets me misty-eyed every time. And I show them that picture, you know, and I tell them the story behind it, and I help them understand that, you know, I understand what you're going through because I went through it too, you know.
Yep.
It doesn't matter the context or any of that, you know what I mean? It's supporting them, and it's missing them, and not doing the best you can do for them, you know what I'm saying? And those sacrifices that you make, and we're all in the same boat here. You know, we're trying to leave a better life for our kids, you know what I mean, than we had, even if it's 1% better, you know.
Yeah.
And now, you know, as we get older, we're just trying to be present, you know. So again, going back to it, having that sympathy, and then, you know, having something like that in your back pocket, like that picture, to remind them, you know, where you came from and what you did to get where you are. And so if they haven't done anything like that, you're not going to know. They're not going to tell you, oh, I've never worked that hard before. You know what I mean? But they will be convicted, and it will be easier for them to understand, okay, why does the company make a 35% gross profit, and then you get your 15% net profit at the end? It's because I've been doing this for now 15 years. You know what I'm saying? But back then I was making the same sacrifices that you're talking about now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
well, and listen, profit, unfortunately, well, and before I move on to the profit discussion, just to follow up on the picture of your daughter, I mean, you realized this a long time ago. If your family isn't the greatest thing you're working on, and you've got a family, you need to go get your mind right and make it the greatest thing you're working on. I've said that before on this show, and I'll continue to say it again. It's got to be number one. I'm so big on that right now. From a personal standpoint, my biggest thing is saving our last name, because I've got some cousins, but I think if it really comes down to it, it's on my shoulders and my sons. And while Janakovo is not the easiest name to remember or spell or say, that's my goal, to make it as such. I'll tell you that.
Make it household.
And right. So even if it's within our own circle, that's my goal. But anyway, on the profit thing, this word profit has become almost evil. And I'm not a fan of that, because it really comes down to the fact that a company cannot succeed if it doesn't have the profits to reinvest in the company, pay the people well, and really make it rewarding for your time, for your energy. So on that note, what are some things that you do throughout the process to take those profits and drive back into the business and into the team?
So I try to focus on the gross profit number, right? So for me, it's pretty easy because I don't fulfill a product, right? We get paid a commission, or we get paid a gross profit from a solar job, and 65% goes to my sales force. And if we're on a call right now, they know this number. You know what I mean? 35% goes to the company, and we haven't, on the solar side, we haven't profited since we started. You know what I mean? Because we're pioneering, our Argenta Solar, and doing everything we can to make it a profitable company. But more importantly, what we've done with Argenta Solar is we want to make it a profitable opportunity for everybody involved. We don't want to have, so our goal as Argenta as a whole is 100 six-figure earners, right? And so solar is going to be a huge part of that goal because of the scalability of it, right?
Yep.
And so what we're doing right now is we're testing postcard mailers for lead gen. We're testing some different org structures within our opportunity on the solar side. We're testing, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all that for solar. And then we're also doing some age leads. We're testing like crazy right now. And so there is no profit on the solar side. Now on the MDU side, that is a well-oiled machine. I say MDU, the AT&T side, that's a well-oiled machine. And so what we're doing there is rewarding our people, honestly, because they've been with us for a long time. And so one of the things we did is we just randomly bought some of the guys some Louis Vuitton wallets, just to show some appreciation, you know what I mean? And we actually just started this program, and hopefully no matter what, they're going to appreciate it and they're going to be surprised by it. But as a staff, we started this program called Giftology. And the concept was developed by John Ruhin, Ruhin, I believe. And he's got a book called Giftology.
Yep.
And
great book.
Yeah, it's a great book. So we're kind of following his structure in that for our salespeople and our staff. So, to put it simply, it's showing them appreciation by getting them gifts with nothing tied to it. No bonus, you know what I mean? It's not because they did well. It's just a way to show appreciation for people that have continued to help you build out your company and been loyal, you know what I mean? And given 100% effort, right? And so as we build that out, we're kind of learning and everything. But that's one of the ways that we're investing back into the company. We also just launched we're W2 completely on the solar side. So they're going to get access to benefits, health insurance, life insurance, all that type of stuff. So that's just some of the stuff that we're doing right now while we're figuring out the solar side of the business.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to this, don't look past what Doug just said about having everybody be W-2. I've lived a life of a 1099 contractor, and that's an investment. And it on the surface, most people, 96 out of 100 people who apply for a job don't even recognize what that investment into your team really means. They just really don't. 80% of the people are going to walk by it. 16 out of the next group of 20 are going to be like, okay, well, that makes my life a little easier. I don't have to keep receipts. I don't have to do this. I guess I can plug into their group benefits. I don't have to go get them on my own. Right. And then 4 out of 100 are really going to get it. And I guess those 4 out of 100 would be the ones that you go look to recruit because they're smarter than the average bear, so to say. But yeah, I mean, investing in the team is, that's awesome to hear you're doing that. You're kind of following that giftology path. We've been doing it for a little while. One of the things that we did, kind of circle back where we started door knocking with meat guys. One of my referral group, networking group people locally to me, she has a beef cow farm. So last September, in walks Jeff with like 12 boxes of beef for the team, and filled their freezers to the point where we had our fridge freezer at the store for break time for meals. It was filled because they didn't have room at home.
That's awesome.
But it's great. I mean, those guys are, they're still eating on some of that, and they're, some of them are very appreciative of it, especially with the price of groceries anymore. Again, not
gas to get there.
What's that?
I said, and the price of gas to get there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, again, our teams aren't, I think your team, my team, we're not necessarily pinching pennies, but it was a gift that was very much appreciated. So we signed up for it again. And I think July is the new delivery there. But yeah, things like that are so important. So that's a good segue. So tell me about the barbecuing, man. So you're into barbecuing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then I want to hear more about this I do redo barbecue.
Yeah. So on the barbecue side, obviously I really honed in on my craft during COVID. We're locked up for a while there. So I had, I was still working, but it was a lot easier to go into the backyard and check out that stuff. Yeah. If you look at TX Barbecue Dad, then you'll see all my barbecue stuff. It's on a separate page, but yeah, no, I love to barbecue, and it really taps into my passion, which is feeding people, and taking care of people. Right. I love to host, I love to have people over. I'm surprisingly a social person when I can control the party. It's other people's parties that I'm like, I don't know if I want to be here. You know what I mean?
Right. Turn into a wallflower.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a big part of it, and I'm excited about the legacy piece of that. Like my daughter won't compliment anybody else's brisket but mine, even though their brisket's better. She's just nice. Like, yeah, there you go. That's my daughter there. And so yeah, it's just it's a family part. Barbecue makes you be present in the moment, because if you're not engaged in what you're doing and you're not on point with your cook times and all that, then you're going to be in trouble. You're going to miss out on something. You're going to overcook it or whatever the case is. Yeah, that's a Wagyu brisket I did for Easter. Now I'm going to get hungry. Now I'm going to have to.
That looks amazing. So I told you in the pre-show, so like I have immense respect for folks. So are you a smoker? Is that what you're doing? Barbecuing?
Yeah. So I have a steel pit, and so I use oak wood, mesquite wood, and so it's offset and offset smoke. So indirect smoke is what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a ribeye. That's a tomahawk ribeye. And so you smoke it for like an hour first, and then you sear the crap out of it, and it just, oh man, it comes out amazing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, you're probably gonna like reach through the internet and like smack me. So I've been fiddling around because I don't have the patience to go through hours. Like I've got friends, do you do like 12-hour smokes, 18-hour smokes? Do you do stuff like that?
I used to do that a lot.
Yeah.
What I did is just started getting smaller pieces of meat, so I didn't
Yeah.
have to deal with that.
I guess I just need to research what the lower times are. But anyway, I digress. So what I do is I get these, it's mostly pork that I've tried this with. So I get it and I actually put it in the crock pot for like 24 hours.
Yeah.
In a bag to hold all the juices in.
Yeah.
Low. And I mean, low and slow, I know is a thing in the barbecue world, right? So 24
Absolutely.
hours is pretty slow. And you might think, well, why the heck 24 hours, Jeff? That's a lot longer than 6 hours or 12 hours. Well, I just set it and forget it, right? Like I do the Ron Popeil thing. And I really enjoy it. I will tell you, it's worked for me. But
I've got a question.
Yeah.
How do you go 24 hours smelling it and not eat it?
Yeah, well, I mean, the first 12 hours. I guess the first 12 hours, if you dig in, you'd get poisoning because it's not done yet. So you just have to have that patience, right? But yeah, it does add up. The first time I did it, I went a little heavy on the garlic, and my wife was not impressed at all. But the one that I like the most to do is, so I'll do a pork butt, take a knife, cut like an X down in it, and I do like a little sweet citrus thing. I do pineapple, so I get a whole pineapple, cut it into strips, put that down inside, and then some lime. And I will tell you, man, that is like,
it sounds amazing.
That's living for me.
Yeah,
I really like it.
Throw some onions on that and some pickles and throw it on some sliders.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm real hungry now. So I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, like,
all right.
That's just another form of cooking, right?
Yeah.
So like one of my favorite things to do with like a 2-inch ribeye, right? And so the mistake a lot of people make when they're cooking a steak, and so this will be more universal for all the listeners, because I know this is what we wanted to talk about.
That's right. We're getting to the real meat of it here.
We're getting to the real stuff here
as we turn the hour.
You can get a 2-inch ribeye from HEB or wherever you get your groceries from, right? And put it in the oven first, and let it get to about 100 degrees. Okay. So the problem is so many people want that nice sear on the outside, and then they forget that the inside has to cook too, right? And so they get the nice sear, and then they overcook the outside because they're trying to get the inside to 135, right? And so I'll get it to 100 in the oven, and then I'll throw down the olive oil, start searing it, and then throw in butter and garlic and thyme if you're into that, and then start basting it and everything, And then of course that's putting salt and pepper on it first. But the sear after the cook is the best thing. And what I would encourage you to try, just to give your pork another flavor. Do you have any type of pit outside?
I do not.
So you can get like a $10 Walmart pit, right? And put the charcoal on one side and put the meat on the other, and put some wood chips in that charcoal, and just let it smoke for an hour, 2 hours. Pork is very receiving of the smoke, and then throw it in your crock pot, and it'll give it that smoke flavor. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll have to try that.
Yeah. Just don't put the
liquids. A convert, man.
Yeah. Well, once you start, I'm just trying to get you in there a little bit, and then all of a sudden we're going to do this again in a year, and you're going to have 3 pits outside, and you're going to be a barbecue master.
Yeah. That's how it goes. So, so the I Do Redo barbecue, man. So share with us what that's all about. So you said earlier on, you're married, then not, and now back again.
You referenced earlier, an entrepreneur that's not putting his family first and not pouring into his family. And so that was me in my mid to late 20s. I was very numbers driven, very ego driven. I had a chip on my shoulder from my childhood that really pushed me to get the awards and the numbers. You know what I'm saying? I was all about status, competition, all that stuff. And so when I was home, I wasn't present. I was on my phone. I was working, right? And you know, there's a lot of good moments in there. I have a lot of great memories with my daughter. I was the first one to like get her ready every day for a while there. But anyways, I got a little full of myself around 26, 27 because of the success of the business and everything. And I just lost myself, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And did some things that I'm not proud of, and I don't want to get too deep into it. I have in several other podcasts that it was more appropriate, you know what I mean? But basically I didn't live up to my vows, right?
Yeah.
And so Alicia and I separated and eventually divorced, but that love was always there. And we weren't those, you know, spiteful parents that used the kids against each other and that fought over money. You know what I mean? I always took care of them because she was at home with the kids several times during growth periods in my business, you know, so I recognized that. And I always made sure that she was taken care of. We were 50-50 with the kids. We had a really good co-parenting relationship. And I think it was because the love was still there. You know what I mean? And eventually she, through prayer and through her relationship with God, she was able to forgive me and for everything that I had done in our marriage. And she reached back out in that aspect. And eventually we started dating again and decided to move in together. And just a couple weeks ago, we were at the Cabo Mastermind, and they put together a beautiful setup for us. And I think if you reference my Instagram, you can see it in there. Yeah, that's the one. You guys got great timing.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very, I mean, it's the strength of your relationship coming through right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's powerful, man. It really is.
Yeah. And we both had to do a lot of work on ourselves to get there. I mean, an insane amount of work. When you marry that young, you don't know who you are. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you have not been presented with the challenges that life brings. And so we had to do a lot of work to get back to this point. And we didn't just say right away, oh, we're going to get married again. Like, I wanted to make sure that I was 100% who I was supposed to be before I proposed to her again, you know? And that was probably the only thing. I didn't just run in and try it again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't want to put her through all that again. So I had to make sure that I had for lack of a better term, I had my shit together before I proposed, you know?
Yeah.
And so it
I mean,
took a little time.
Yeah. I mean, so often in the entrepreneur mindset, I related to, I climb the high dive, jump off and fill the pool on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's times I'm like, I don't even think there's a hose nearby to fill this thing up.
Right.
But we're going.
Absolutely.
So kudos to you for like having the strength in that relationship and realizing what you had, and that it meant something. And you both found your way back. I think that's just awesome. I really do.
The kids
really
are
happy
excited
for
about
you
it.
both.
They don't have to do the half and half thing, so that's cool. And all the resources are in one place. So they got a PS5 last month, so they were pretty excited about that. They're besides themselves. So
yeah. That's awesome, man. I mean, that is really, really great. I think it's a great way to kind of wrap up our time together on the show. One last thing to ask you about. So we talked about barbecuing. We didn't talk about the rugby.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing, like here, we call this show the Big Ticket Life because we do life and business on our terms. You shared a number of ways. You dig in with your family, you pick up your kids, take them to school, you're doing the barbecuing. Talk about your love of rugby for a minute here.
So I was never a really good athlete in high school. I didn't have talent. And then finally, when I got older, like I grew into my body, I guess, I don't know, but I was a lot more athletic in my 20s than I was in my teens. And I always had this, like, I was that guy on the basketball court that cared too much, you know what I mean? and the softball field that cared a little too much, and everybody was just trying to have a good time, and I'm trying to win and dominate at all things, you know what I mean? and so, I never really found an outlet for that, or I don't know, anger, frustration, I never really found an outlet for any of that stuff until I found rugby, until I could hurl myself at full speed at another man and tackle him, was I really fulfilled physically, you know what I mean? Being able to exert that, like, I don't know. I just feel like as men and women play it too, you know what I mean? But as men, like enacting violence on another man, there's something like just in us that we need to do that every now and then. You know what I'm saying?
I'm right there with you. I've taken a break for some physical issues with my left leg, but Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
I mean, I am undeniably a better leader, person, father, you name it. As you say, enact violence upon somebody. My joke back when I was training hardcore and competing across the nation was, you know how you say I could just choke someone in a day? Well, I get to do that. Like, actually, chokes are my thing. I have 5 of them in my toolkit that I can whip out at any time. Here, want to see? Right? Like that was my thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, I mean, I think to manifest that competitive spirit in a different way really does help. So no, that's cool that you found rugby. That's awesome. My intro to rugby came from a youth football coach. He was big into it, so we taught the kids some safe tackling because you guys don't use equipment.
Nope.
No helmets,
just a
right?
mouth guard. Just a mouth guard.
Yep.
And also it introduced me to like a brotherhood. You know, I didn't really have strong family ties. I didn't have those lifelong friends, you know, so it introduced me to a brotherhood, and that's what really grabbed me, you know. And then I was president of the club 2 years later, you know. And so that's kind of what Apex has done for me as well, you know, because even in that brotherhood, not everybody there was trying to be the best version of themselves. So Apex was like another family for me that I can kind of connect to and be a part of. That's kind of elevated me, you know what I mean? And so that was a big deal for me too, especially on this last trip. We got to just hang out and connect. I think Kel Goodman and Paul Hom was on that trip too, and we got to just hang out and connect, and it was really cool. I missed that in my younger years, and it's awesome that I get to have it now between rugby and Apex.
Yeah. I mean, having that connection to people that fuel you for your growth personally, professionally, to help others, to rely on. You know, being an entrepreneur is kind of like a lonely world sometimes. Friends and family don't get you if they're not, you know, with you or doing their own thing. So yeah, having that network is important. Obviously, I've highlighted a lot of folks on Apex. You can always check out what that's all about. And you can go to jointheapex.com. I think that's the site. But you can also just Google it, or you can reach out to Doug or me.
Yeah.
But whether it's Apex or not, you know, but yeah, definitely find that brotherhood. Find those people that you can kind of do life with and get you and can help push you forward. It's really important for your leadership. One last question for you.
Okay.
So part of the big ticket life for me is doing life and business on your terms, celebrating your success of those around you, and also helping those around you. Any charities that you get down with that you want to talk about that excite you?
Champion Shoes. We just signed on with them last month, and we committed $1,000 a month to them. And then once we wanted to do a pair of shoes per solar system. So once that exceeds the 1,000, then we're going to continue with that, right? And so, Mike Claudio runs that organization, and it's pretty versatile. I mean, you can either just donate, or they can do the whole charity in a box for you if you know kids that need these shoes and that want to, or that you want to impact, right? Because obviously they're going to kids that are less fortunate, right? And we all remember what it was like to put on a brand new pair of Nikes when you were a kid. You know what I mean? You felt like a superhero, you know? And so it is a really amazing organization and movement that I've been supporting for a couple of months now, and everybody should learn about. But yeah, they'll send you everything in a box. You can write the note to the kid, you know what I mean? And they write you notes back, you know what I'm saying? And then you can send them out and everything, or they can do it with their own organizations that they're involved with. So it's really important to me that when I donate, I know that those funds are actually going to the purpose, you know what I'm saying? And I know all charities can't run like that. You know, if you want to expand and have a, big footprint, you need elite people in the charity that have to get paid, right?
Yeah. I would agree with it. But, if your charity simply exists to raise money and 1% of what you collect actually goes to the cause, I think you've lost, you've lost sight of what that's like for sure.
I don't want to speak for Mike, but I'm guessing just, what he's shown me so far, like 95% goes to the actual purpose of the charity. So.
Yeah. And I mean, I can speak to that personally. As a football coach, we had a great community team, community network. Parents would bring back cleats and sneakers that no longer fit their kid, but were still in great condition. So we got those. And then there were other times we just didn't have, size 6 available or whatever size it was.
Yeah.
So myself and other coaches, we pooled money together and bought those sneakers or cleats. And I will tell you, unequivocally, those kids lit up. It is powerful. You can impact people's lives. So if you like that mission of what a Champion Shoes does, you can check them out too. So that's a Champions Shoes. I think it's achampionshoes.com. Is that right?
.org, but yeah.
.org. Yeah. achampionshoes.org. So yeah, it really can have impact on a child, and you might just change their life. They might realize that the world isn't so bad around them, and you might light that fire under them for something else. So
absolutely.
Very cool. Very cool. Doug, man, this was a pleasure to have you on the show. Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was awesome and easily the best run show that I've been on. And that's including my own, right? I've got to figure all this out because this is freaking awesome.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, I'll plug him because he's good. Just you've got his email, Chris, and anybody watching this, if you agree with the type of show we put on, the guests we have, reach out to Chris at Cast Ahead. Chris at castahead.net. He's the guy. I couldn't do any of this. He designed the logo. He's awesome. So speaks to having a great team around you, because I kind of get to show up with my friends and talk, and he handles all the details. So,
I'm all about that. Yeah.
yeah. It's very cool. Very cool stuff. So yeah, man, this was a pleasure. Very much enjoyed having you. I hope our listeners got a lot. I think they should have. I hope they did. And Doug, thank you. Bottom of my heart. Thanks, man, for joining me. And we'll see you all next week on the Big Ticket Life. Get ready to do life and business on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. You either make excuses or you choose to level up. Amazing guests living the big ticket life. Woo! Woo! Brandon Brittingham.
Appreciate you having me here today, man.
It's that kind of discernment, that kind of focus, that kind of forward thinking that's so important if you're going to succeed in business today.
Jeff and I are like friends. We're real friends.
We are and so you unlock fortune and freedom without all the stress that normally comes along with it.
It all comes down to your why. Your business, why are you doing it? How is it going to change the world, and what's it going to do for your family?
I want you to celebrate your success.
Talk about the struggle. But I promise you, the story is in your struggle.
They'll never be able to say that about me, because people only see me working hard in anything that I'm doing whenever they see me
focused on your success and the success of those around you.
But being that constant in your community, good or bad, whether things are great in the community, bad in the community, who's steady?
Unapologetically do business and life on your terms and truly live your big ticket life. Amazing guests living the big ticket life. And we discuss how they do it and the big ticket methods they use. The things that make your life successful. You do life and business on your terms.
In and of itself, the only limitations that we really have on ourselves is the ones that we allow to be put on ourselves. And most people don't look at it in that perspective.
There's nothing wrong with being humble, but there's also nothing wrong with stepping into your superpower and letting people know who you are.
Get ready to do life and business on your terms. Truly live your big ticket life.